Let's talk about the weirdest, like, woo-woo thing that I have ever done. Welcome back to my channel. On this channel, I post things that spark joy in me and hopefully do a little something for you. So for whatever reason, I have found myself talking about NAET testing twice in the past week. I've just come across people who were struggling with allergies, and I am a big advocate of NAET testing ever since I went through it with my daughter. So I thought I'd hop on here and just share a little story time about my experience with NAET testing and hopefully put it out there for anybody that is interested or was like me and never had heard of this and was about to spend a bunch of money on it. Now, I don't remember what the acronym NAET actually stands for, so I'll look it up and I will stick it down here below. Basically, this is done through a NAET specialist who is usually also a chiropractor. I know both times that we went through it was with a chiropractor. So let's just start from the beginning. So my youngest daughter, Ariella, was struggling with eczema. She had eczema all over her cheeks, and then it was spreading down to like her stomach area and her legs. And when I say it was bad, I mean it was bad, guys. It would crack and it would bleed and it would puss up, and it was just, she was so uncomfortable. And this happened to her at about the 6-month range. We took her to all sorts of pediatricians. We took her to so many doctors. I think we went to like 10 or 11 different doctors to see what they could do for her. We had a fantastic pediatrician at the time. He was a holistic specialist. But he was not the one who introduced us to NAET. He tried a whole bunch of other remedies, different oils, different skin creams, and he couldn't figure out what it was. And so we just went from doctor to doctor. We tried holistic things. We tried like alcohol-based creams and just anything they would hand us over the counter. I would try it because I wanted so badly for her to be out of pain. I remember at some point a mom that I was working with at the theater actually worked for Plexus, and I'm not big on MLMs. Ever since I left Beachbody, like I just kind of write off MLMs. But she had this cream that there was all these testimonies and success stories, and so I was like, all right. So I like joined her team and I spent 45 bucks on this like little tube of cream, and it did not work. Nothing. Like, it didn't work even in the slightest bit. And so one day we were going to our chiropractor, and it had been a while since we visited our chiropractor. And so I was just mentioning to him about her eczema and the struggles we were having with it. And he was like, have you ever heard of NAET testing? And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, come back to my clinic when I'm closed and I will walk you through this. This was when we lived in Texas. He was such a fantastic chiropractor. I highly recommend him if you guys are in the McKinney area. His name is Dr. Bo. And so he told us all about NAET testing. And basically, he was going to expose her to different allergens and then see if her body reacted to them. But this was non-invasive, so this is not like the scratch test. So what he did was he took out a glass bottle, and it was full of, let's just say, pollen, okay? So there's pollen inside of this glass bottle. Now, since she was so little, I acted as her, what is it called? Is it surrogate? Or I think there's another word for it. But like, we had to be skin to skin. See, this is where it starts to get woo-woo. We had to be skin to skin. I know my hand had to be at a certain point on her back, and then I had to like touch my, I think it was my ring finger and my thumb finger, and put them on her skin. And then I would lift up my arm, and also I had the allergen touching my skin and her skin. I would lift up my arm, and he would like ask my body different questions like, is she allergic to pollen? Is she allergic to seeds? And as he would ask these, he would push my arm down, and I had to resist. And then he could tell by the way my arm either went down or didn't go down what the answer was. It was so weird, so weird. And I had no faith that this was going to work, which is how I know it was not a placebo effect, which it couldn't have been a placebo effect because it wasn't me that had the eczema, it was my daughter. But yeah, I was like, I'm paying $75 for you to ask my arm questions. And that's what he did. He would push it down and just keep handing me different bottles. And asking my arm questions. And then finally he came up with a list of like, okay, these are the things that her body is sensitive to. So not all of them was she like deathly allergic to, but we wanted to rule out like all sensitivities, all of that, just to make sure it wasn't a bunch of minor things adding up to a big thing. Now, it did get pricey at this point because we had to go back in to check each allergen, and we had a list of like 30 or 40 different allergens we were checking. Now he, from my understanding, had kind of an old school training, so he went one at a time with each allergen. And what I had to do, because I was breastfeeding at the time, is I actually also had to eliminate these items from my diet, which was completely fine until it came to some really tough ones. Like one day we were she had a sensitivity to just like water, so I could only drink distilled water for 72 hours because if I remember correctly, it was like the 24 hours before, the 24 hours during, and then the 24 hours after you were tested, something like that. I could be wrong. I remember more of the second doctor we had, which I'll get to that in a minute. But it ended up being, I'm pretty sure, 72 hours. So I could only drink distilled water for 72 hours. Like, I couldn't bathe Ariella for 72 hours. I couldn't bathe for 72 hours unless it was in distilled water. So that was a hard one. There was another one. We were trying to eliminate an entire like vegetable group or something, like it was something crazy where I could only eat cauliflower and fish for 72 hours. I'm a vegetarian. I hadn't touched fish in 10 years, but I was not about to just eat cauliflower for 3 days. So that was the one and only time in my like, I think it's been like 15 years now, 12 years, 13 years I've been a vegetarian. But it's like the one and only time that I've like ever broken my vegetarianism and eaten something like that. But it was for my survival because I wasn't just going to eat like cauliflower and water for 3 days. So we started to see her eczema clear up, and I just started crying. It took about a month. And we would go do him. We would do like once a week, and so I knew it was going to take a while, but like for the sake of my body and all these eliminations, I could not do it back to back. I needed to do like once a week, because then we're looking at, you know, like 4 days in between each testing and retesting. It took about a month, and we started to see like her skin started to clear up, and it just made me, so happy. Well, then we moved to Tennessee, and so I knew the first thing that I wanted to do was to find a NAET doctor here, and we were able to do that. And I guess he had like level 2 training or whatever it was. So here's the thing with NAET training, and the doctor here in Tennessee was telling me this. I guess there's only like one person who like does this training, and so it's like if you don't go to this one person, then you cannot be a NAET specialist. So he had went through like different levels, like his whole wall was covered in certifications of NAET. This is what he specialized in. Dr. Bo in Texas, fantastic. His specialty was chiropractic care with a side of NAET. So he knew what he was doing. But the one here, like that's like all he did. All he did was NAET testing. And so he had a technique where he could expose her and we could test and cure, I think it's 12 at a time. So first of all, my budget was like, yes. So he did the same arm thing, the same arm questions. Now the biggest difference here was, as opposed to me then having to eliminate that from my diet for 3 days, is he would give her the allergen in a big sock. So he would fill his sock with all the glass bottles of the things that she was sensitive to, and he would put that sock on her foot. We would wait in the lobby for 20 minutes, and then you have this little massager, and you have to hit certain points within those 20 minutes. I can't remember what the points are, but you could find it if you looked it up. I'm sure a chart. I had to always like look on his website for the different points. And so we would do that in his lobby, and then like we were good for the next 24 hours. I had to do those points. I think it was every 2 hours you have to set an alarm. Now this was I forgot to mention this with the first doctor. He also did this. So after he would test, the only difference was we would sit in the lobby with one glass bottle in a sock. We would do the points. We'd go home for the next 24 hours, every 2 hours, I think it is. You have to hit those same points with the little massager. And she loved it. She thought it was like the funniest thing to get these massages. The only time it became inconvenient is like obviously if you're like at the store and your alarm goes off and you're like, oh, there's my 2 hours. Let me head to the car really quick, or like do it in public. I did it in public a couple times and I'm sure people thought I was weird. I also like did not realize that the little massager just straight up looks like a dildo, because I pulled it out from my bag one day and my sister was like, why do you have a dildo? Oh, my camera's about to die, so I'm gonna hurry this up. Okay, so it took another 4 weeks for us to see results with the doctor here in Tennessee, but we saw results and all of her sensitivities were cured. She still has 2 major allergies, bananas and strawberries, and we could have continued the testing. Number 1, budget. Budget didn't really allow for the testing. And number 2, we had gotten it to the point where she could at least be around the allergens. So she could not have even been in the same room as bananas and strawberries without breaking out. If I ate it and then like touched her, she would break out again. And so we got it to the point where she can be around these items, she just can't consume them. And in 7 years, your taste buds change. And so in 7 years, our NAET doctor and chiropractor is going to help us reintroduce those items. Hopefully by then we'll have a bigger budget and I'll be able, not hopefully, by then we will have a bigger budget and I'll be able to finish up the NAET testing with those last few allergies that she has. But if you're like me and you think this is super woo-woo, you think this is crazy, you're not alone, but it works. I do highly recommend doing your research. NAET is a very hard type of doctor to find, but once you find a good one, stick with them, give it a couple weeks, okay? And yeah, all I can say is it works. It's super weird, but that's really what drove me to this holistic care, because I'm like, I have seen it work. It can't be placebo effect, because my 6-month-old could not like will herself to get better, like just to make me happy or make the doctor happy. Alright guys, I somehow made it before my battery died. Thank you for watching. Comment below if you are doing NAET testing or if you have any other questions. I can try to answer them. I can only speak from my experience and what I remember. But good luck on your journey, and I hope this was helpful to somebody out there. I'll see you guys in my next video. Be sure to subscribe. Bye!